Okay, so I'm just gonna try and do this quickly for... Oh, Duke was mad because I didn't kiss him when I came home. Mwah. Okay. Okay, so I'm just gonna try and do this quickly. So I didn't actually film yesterday, but yesterday, so we finished up with Morrison, and like the guy could not answer a yes or no question to save his life. Like if you put a gun against his head and we're like, just say yes or no, he'd go, well. So finally finished up with that guy, and then defense rested, so we got to move on to the closing arguments. And of course I started with the defense. He literally took as much time as possible so there was no time for the prosecution to go. Like, he just kept going. He had this slideshow and he just read it like verbatim, and it was, because we first, I just got the hair, okay, we're good. First we had like the juror instructions, which was really exciting. So we got all the juror instructions, and then they're like, okay, it'll be the closing arguments, and then we'll tell you who the alternates are, and then you'll start deliberation tomorrow. Perfect. No, he did his closing argument for so long and went over the things we had literally just gone over and had a printout about for what the juror instructions were. It took him so freaking long that we couldn't get to the prosecutor's side, and he was saying like fully incorrect facts. Like there was a point where, and I actually double checked with people because I was just like, I think I'm crazy. It was like so much gaslighting from the defense attorney. It was really weird. So first of all, there was like one fact where it had been, he had, previous to this trial, had attacked some people with a fire poker. And several people had mentioned it. It was definitely a fire poker, I remembered it. But he said it was a pickaxe. And I was like, that's a totally different instrument, often not found in the home for any reason. Doesn't make any sense. And he kept saying it was a pickaxe. And I was like, I'm positive that it was a fire poker. I'm so sure. For one thing, attacking people with a pickaxe is just like a totally, like I feel like his charges then were not enough, you know? It was so weird. And then he said some other things that I was like, I do not recall this being the facts of the trial. Like there were a couple things he insisted that Morrison, who could talk like anybody's business, had said that he had turfed the case over to the attorney. I was like, not only does that not sound like him, I have no recollection of that word being used, and it stands out enough. And like, okay, I zoned out in some of the things he was saying. It was such a like colloquial term. I don't know, it didn't make any sense for what he was saying. So I was just like, okay, crazy. Today we started with the prosecution. Their side, well, his side, because there's only one prosecutor now, because the other one is just mysteriously gone. They didn't even say why. Like yesterday, he just wasn't there, and they're like, I think you'll notice that the other prosecutor isn't here. And then they just moved on. There's no explanation. I was just like, yes, I did notice. Is he sick? Does he have another case? Where'd he go? But we're already like, this is our second day over. Like they said we'd been on the 15th. It's the 17th now. So the prosecutor went ahead and he was talking, and he's pretty eloquent and he's pretty to the point, and I was pretty much with him. I was like, okay, yeah, I'm seeing all your points, you're bringing all this stuff together, it's all making a lot of sense, you're really engaging us all. And then he started just going on an attack campaign about one of the psychologists, and he was just trying to smear her, and I was like, I don't think that was necessary. For one thing, it's rude, it was full rude. I don't think it was necessary. Like, all of his other points had been so good that, like, smearing her reputation was fully unnecessary. And then he went after one of the other female psychologists, who I had thought had done a phenomenal job, actually, and I had no question about her actual thing. Like, yeah, the first one, there had been some, like, weird mistakes, like a typo in her report where it was just, like, the typo made her whole thing sound like it was coming from a different perspective. So it was actually like, okay, yeah, alright, she messed up. You didn't have to smear her entire reputation. And then the other one, I was like, what do you have against her? So it was kind of weird when he went on just like a sudden smear campaign. So I was kind of like, okay, but I still feel like, given everything and given the juror instructions, that I have a strong opinion. Well, then we had, for some reason, the closing argument rebuttal, wherein the defense attorney, and I kid you not, and I double checked with people, basically said his closing argument again, verbatim. He had a few things thrown in that were like against what the prosecutor had said, but not really many. He just started reading those slides again. And I was like, do we have to sit through another like 2 hours of this? And yes we did. It was, I mean, to the point where the judge was finally like, you're gonna have to wrap up. And I mean, what the frick? It was ridiculous. He just read those slides again. I was like, first of all, I just don't think they helped your point. Those didn't solidify anything new for me. They didn't spell out anything that I was unclear of at that point, like nothing. And honestly, it was so boring and repetitive. I kind of was like, it kind of made me not like him. And I feel like as the defense attorney, the number one thing you don't want to do is make yourself unlikable. But I feel like he did. I mean, he even like used a microphone for it so we could hear him. And I was like, good. He's trying to engage with us. No, it was full boring and unhelpful. And I was just like, I don't know. But anyway, and then finally, after all of that, they announced who the alternates were. And it was like, oh good, and it's not me. I'm a juror. I'm a full juror. I'm so excited. I'm like, really, I've been dreading all day that I might be an alternate. And it was like, yeah, okay, it would be great for my coworkers. I could go into work this afternoon. They've been struggling and I feel really bad, but it's also like not at all my fault. It's entirely the boss's fault for not having enough employees, that my two coworkers aren't having to bear the grunt of so much and like work. Well, actually, they still each get a full day off if they played it right. I'm still there enough days that they could each get a day off, which is how I had kind of planned it. But anyway, so yeah, actually I shouldn't feel bad at all. But what I feel terrible about is then the judge was like, and you might have to come back on Friday. And we were all like, excuse me, I thought court didn't run on Friday. And they're like, no, trial doesn't run on Friday. You might have to deliberate Friday. And we were all like, that was not made clear to anybody at any point. Most of us carefully scheduled all our important things that we couldn't get out of on Fridays so that we would be able to come in. Like, I'm planning on working on Friday. Like, yes, I can get out of it if I have to, if the court says I have to, but it would, I mean, that would screw my coworkers over. Then they wouldn't get their break in the week, which they should get anyway, but then it just screws everyone more. Like, my job is run really poorly, and I'm seeing more and more of that. Anyway, that completely aside. So it was like, yay! And then it was like, oh. But deliberation is going to start. And so I wanted to make sure that I said everything. Deliberation is going to start after lunch. I'm home now for a lunch break. And I wanted to make sure that I said everything that I had about the trial, the proceedings, and everything first. And then I'll tell you what deliberation is like. I might just wait and like say it in one video by itself and one talk through. But yeah, so now I have sat through an entire trial. It was what, like 3 weeks? 3 weeks of trial. And now it's all concluded, it's wrapped up, and I'm going to get to deliberate and voice my opinion, and I will let you know what our verdict is. Now, this is not a verdict for his criminal offense. It's not a verdict, it's not a diagnosis. He's already been diagnosed. All we're doing is saying whether or not he's competent to stand trial. And so that I will talk about all at once, I think. Hopefully it'll turn out we're all on the same page and we won't have to deliberate past today. My coworkers won't have to be mad at me, but we might, and maybe I should look for a new job. Okay, that's all for now. I will talk to you after deliberation. Alright, it's time to wrap up the saga. So the trial is over. I'm no longer a juror anymore. It's been a month. It's been like a full month that I've been on this jury from the beginning. And they said that we could tell people afterwards, so I'm going to be posting this, which you've probably figured out by this point. But so, let's just start with deliberation. So we went back that afternoon for deliberation, and not too much I mean, it was very smooth. At first they told us, like, you need to sit down and kind of get to know each other, because we hadn't all been in the same room. We'd been split between 3 different rooms. Like, there were only 4 people in my room, and I had gotten to know them pretty well, and we'd kind of somewhat gotten on the same page without ever talking about the trial. We'd still been like, are you guys confused about the timeline, or is it just me? Okay, we're all confused. Okay, that's good. That kind of thing, where we were just like, was that weird? Are y'all okay? So we'd kind of gotten to know each other. I knew what their jobs were. I really got along really well with one of the women in my room. We just carried on and had a great time. Actually, she made the whole trial fun for me. We were really good friends. But getting to know everybody else was kind of just a sit and go around the circle. We'd slowly gotten to know each other, you know, wave in the hall. One of the older gentlemen freaking ran up 4 flights of stairs. Every day I walked up the 4 flights of stairs and then down them just to try and give myself some exercise. One of the days after lunch, he's freaking I'm like almost to the 4th floor and he's been jogging from the bottom, and so when he got up there, I made fun of him. I was like, that is excessive, running from the bottom. And he's like, well, just trying to get my exercise. And I was like, you're just showing off. So, you know, like passing conversations with people and waving to everyone in the morning, even when we can't really talk. So we kind of knew each other. We just went around the room, said what our jobs were and our age. Well, some of us said our age and our names and all of that. And, you know, and I hadn't really gotten to know anyone by their name, really. Oh, Cora, do you want to come up too? Here's a Cora. Oh, you want to go this way? Here we go. Pie is also in my lap. It's kitty time. So we went around, got to know each other a little bit, and then just kind of generally started talking, because that was the one thing we all wanted to do. We all wanted to talk about the trial. Why else did I make all these vlogs? I just wanted to talk about the trial the whole time, and everyone had it's all been festering in us. And you know, and parts of it were really traumatic, and just being able to talk to other people about how traumatic some of those things that we had to see was like, I don't know, that was what I needed. It's just like such a relief to finally be discussing it. So as we were talking, we kind of just came to the conclusion we're all kind of on the same page. To be honest, we finally went around, we're just like, let's just see where everyone's at. Like, do you think he's competent or incompetent? And as we went around the room, almost everyone was where I was, which was that he's competent to stand trial. And there were 2 people who weren't sure. One of them was just like, he just didn't know. He just really wanted to hear everybody's opinion before he kind of solidified his own opinion. And he needed to kind of double check a couple things that he wasn't clear on. And the other guy was one of the guys who was in my room, and he said he just doesn't have a great memory for these kind of things. Everything felt like it went in one ear and out the other. And he just needed to go over the facts again. He said he couldn't, he had kind of thought he was innocent from the beginning, but there were a lot of things that he just could not remember. And so we kind of talked about things and like what things made us think that he was competent, what things made us think he was incompetent. Actually, one of the women, much older woman, she was a teacher her whole life. She was 80 and she was a teacher. And she said what she actually did was every day, because the defendant always had a tic, he was always doing something, and I had noticed it, but she said every day she wrote down a note about what he was doing, and that the tics were never the same. It would be like Monday he'd be like rubbing his legs or something, the next day he'd be scooting his chair, and he'd do the same tic all day long, but never the same tic twice like throughout the days. And to her, that was her proof that he was faking everything. And I was like, I'm not sure, that's not where I am. I'm not sure he's faking it, having had a mental illness. I think he has recovered from it, and I do think there is a certain amount of instruction that you get when you are a defendant. For her, that was it. She was sure he was competent because of the tics. And I was like, you know what, that's as decent a reason as any, actually. That's something I did not notice, and that is very weird, actually, to have distinctly different tics that you do all day for a month. Yeah, it was interesting. For me, it came down to a couple of things. One was multiple experts expressed explicitly that schizophrenia is treatable. And several of them gave an idea of their amount of time that they felt like would be the amount necessary to treat schizophrenia to a level of competency in most cases. And then several people who had seen him after he had been treated in that period of time testified that they did not believe schizophrenia was at all an issue anymore, that they believed it was in full remission. He is not suffering schizophrenia. He also has been in jail. He has not had access to meth. And those were the 2 things that I was kind of like, okay, if these aren't taken care of, then he may be incompetent to stand trial. But neither the brother nor the father said anything about any kind of communication issue. And if indeed these things are taken care of, as we've been told they are sufficiently, and they should have been sufficiently, then there's no reason he shouldn't be competent to stand trial. And it seemed like a lot of people, they had like different ways they were coming at it, but kind of were on the same page. The one guy who wasn't sure because of the memory thing, as we talked about, he's like, yeah, I see where you guys are all coming from. My memory is really bad, but I see everything, and putting it all together, he was totally with us. The other guy was still kind of not convinced. And so we were like, okay, what things do you feel like you need to see again? What things should we talk about? And he wanted to watch one of the videos again, which was the video where the defendant was first picked up at the bus stop. This is kind of hilarious. So we asked the bailiff, because she said she would set up the videos for us, even though we had 4 engineers in the room. She was just like, no, you guys don't touch it. I'll set it up. So she could only get the video from the interrogation at the police department set up for us. She couldn't get the other one, and finally she called the lawyer who's been like doing all the tech the whole time to come down from wherever he was and set up the video for us. I was just like, this poor lawyer. So he came down. We couldn't be in the room though, because we were doing all of the deliberation in the courtroom, because we couldn't be in the juror rooms. They're too small for that many people. So we were literally like had the run of the courtroom, and so we couldn't be in there with him. So we had to all leave and stand in the hallway while he came and put on the video for us. And then we watched it. And at the end of it, we were all like, having gotten all the context, all the information from the multiple psychologists and the psychiatrists, especially, like having heard the psychiatrist discuss specifically what things he wasn't seeing when he had watched the videos that would have been indicative of a psychotic break. When rewatching it, everyone was like, yeah, that doesn't seem like someone who is having difficulty communicating. It doesn't seem like someone who is incompetent to stand trial. And based on the other things combined with that, we all unanimously decided that he was competent to stand trial. Hey, don't scratch. Then we decided on who was our, it was all like in such a short period of time, honestly. I thought more people were going to like be on other sides, but we had all heard the same things and come to the same conclusions. So we chose our like head juror, and she wrote our verdict on a paper. And then the bailiff was like, okay, well, it was like 4 o'clock. So it was like end of the day when we wrote it down. We were just like, we're done. We're all on the same page. We're unanimous. We took a vote. We took like a secret ballot vote where we wrote on a piece of paper. Like we were good. We went around and everyone was like, yeah, on the same page. No problem. And then the bailiff was like, okay, I'll call everyone back. And she called everyone, and we were kind of waiting around. And then she was like, okay, we're going to have to come back on Monday. This was on Thursday. We're going to have to come back on Monday because the judge has already left and he has an emergency, so he can't come back. And we were just like, damn, so we're going to come back just for the sentencing on Monday. So we did that. But as we were like leaving the courtroom, the poor lawyer was standing out in the hall. Like, he was ready. He was here for the sentencing. He'd come back to do our video. I felt so bad for him. And he was just like, he had to like turn away because they're not allowed to acknowledge us. Just in general, they can't talk to us one-on-one. So he had to like turn away and hide his face from all of us. But we were just like, oh, the poor guy. He came all the way back. So yeah, so we had to come back on Monday being all done, but still like not able to just be like, yeah, this is what it's about. We came back on Monday, waited for an awful long time considering all they had to do was read our verdict. But we waited around, and then went to the courtroom. There was the legal proceedings where we had to turn in the paper, and then it got read by the clerk, and then they had to go through each and every juror, and we had to acknowledge that this was our decision and the decision of the jury and say yes. And then at the end of all of that, we kind of got shuffled back out into the hall again so they could take the defendant away. And to be fair, he didn't even react or anything when it was read. And so it was kind of like, it weighs on you, I guess. It weighs on me because we're not determining his guilt. We're not determining, and he has no case. And actually, at the end, we talked to the lawyers, and his lawyer admitted, like, there's not a not guilty case. They're going to be fighting on grounds of mental illness, which that's that's the best you could do for a defense for a case like this. Yeah, so we got to talk to them briefly, and I felt it was really, really necessary that I say that it sounds like you proved to me that his schizophrenia should be under control and that was his main issue. So that to me was the reason that I said he was competent. And the defense lawyer was kind of hemming and hawing as we all talked, and the older woman, older woman who had talked about the tics, she actually kind of broke down a little bit. She was like, I wrote all of my thoughts down. It turned out it was 6 pages typed. And the defense lawyer was like, that is really sweet, but I actually was supposed to be in another room in 2 minutes. So can I just have a copy of it? And so she gave him the copy to read. So we didn't get to hear all of her thoughts about it. But that was kind of how I felt too. Like it was a lot. I've seen a lot of death. I have someone I can talk to about things like that. Like Josh is not only like very interested in medical things, he's been an EMT and he has medical skill and knowledge, and he's also on a law enforcement side with the National Park Service. Like he's done trainings and things. Like he has dealt with people who are schizophrenic when he was an EMT. He's dealt with a lot of things like that, and it doesn't bother him. He's found dead bodies before, and for him, it's not a traumatic thing. It's we've discovered this, and now there's gonna be closure for the family. Like he has no problem with death and with sad things, and so it's something that I can talk to him about and know it's not going to upset him further. I know I'm like tearing up again, but I mean, you know, we had to watch a video of a person die. I considered going to counseling because they did offer it, but I don't think that's what I need. I just needed to be able to talk about it, you know, and now it's out of our hands, and that's when the guilt really starts coming back in, is the like, did I make the right decision? And I feel like I do. Every time I'm like, did I? I'm like, yes. He needs to stand trial. He can stand trial. There's no reason to continue putting this off, especially because if I let my emotions kind of take over, like the thing that sucks about this, the thing that's the worst thing, and I'm not going to look at the camera while I say, I'm going to look out the window so I can kind of keep my calm, but the worst thing is that little girl is going to have to testify. And I know she's going to have to. I mean, it wouldn't make sense for her to not. She's going to have to testify, and that's horrible. I mean, that's the worst thing to me. But at the same time, her no longer having to know that that's in her future, to have done that, I think is better for her than continuing to put it off. So I feel justified in that sense, and also that I think this was the right decision. I think he is capable of standing trial. But yeah, and yes, we didn't get a very long meet and greet with the lawyers or anything. It was still just the one younger lawyer. The other one just disappeared. Nobody said anything. Yeah, and then we got these nice certificates. I didn't even show you the certificate. Pi, you're gonna have to get up so I can grab the certificate. 1 sec. So you can see. Oh wait, no. The certificate has my real name on it. Never mind, you don't get to see the certificate. I forgot. My channel is under a pseudonym, so you won't see my real name on it. But anyway, yeah, I feel like I've been giving you my thoughts this whole time. I don't really know how to like wrap them up, other than that this was kind of a unique experience. They said we were the first jury that this courthouse put together after COVID. Like we were the first ones once they opened up again. Everything with us was an experiment. That's why it took so long. That's why everything was kind of crazy. So the judge apologized. We were given some candy, which was kind of cute. I've always wanted to do this. I've always wanted to be on a jury, and to have the first time be something kind of major, kind of awful, kind of interesting. I mean, I learned so much. I know what malingering is like nobody's business, because every single psychologist, we had to go over it again and again. That was one of the things a couple of us kind of took away, was like, we learned so much. It was so interesting, and I enjoyed being there. I did not enjoy sitting on those hard pews. I'm so glad I don't have to do that again. But I had a good time. I loved it. Honestly, I'm going to look into what it takes to be a courthouse clerk, because as I was watching her job and kind of looking it up, I was like, I could do all that. I have that entire skill set. down pat, no problem. I could learn how to do the different things. I mean, she's not even typing out the everything said in the trial. Like, that's not even the clerk's job anymore. She was audio recording it the whole time. So yeah, I could do that job. So I'm kind of looking into maybe how to get into that, because I know like not every trial is going to be this kind of trial. Like, there'll be ones that are crazier and there'll be ones that are way more tame or way more boring. But you know what I really like? I would love to see when the lawyers are all fighting, when they're like screaming at each other or whatever they do, and they're like having a little tiff in between, because they always had to put on a professional front for us as the jurors. They had to always be friendly and professional and nice, but you know they were just like throwing down when we weren't in there, and that's the part I really want to see. So yeah, so this is my experience with COVID style jury. It was really interesting. It was kind of different. I'm sure in a normal trial there'll be like people sitting on the pews and like coming and going, and it was just us and the lawyers and the defendant and the two police officers always in the room, spread out across the entire room. And you know, went in every day wearing my mask, and found that occasionally you'd see somebody like heading to their car and take their mask off. People's faces do not look the same when they are in a mask. Most of the people, when they took the mask off, looked like completely different people, because you were only ever seeing this much of them. So I had stopped putting on makeup on the bottom half of my face. I was only doing my eyes because nobody would see it otherwise. But wow, people look different when they have the mask and what you like perceive before. It's wild. So that was kind of cool. And yeah, now I'm back to work. So that is the conclusion of the trial. For now, they are going to go on to the actual trial, because this was a hearing. So they're going to go on to an actual trial, and I'm gonna try and follow it because I want to know. It's kind of weird to leave it at this and to not know what's gonna happen later. And I actually tried looking up articles right after everything. I was like, when did this happen? What were the news articles? But there's not really anything to find. So I'll look a little harder, and if I do find some things, maybe I can attach that for you. But maybe there really isn't that much, and this is something that you're not going to hear about from anyone but me. And I think probably I'll have decided to redact a lot of the specific information and just give you kind of my overall thoughts and opinions, and not really talk to you about some of the harder aspects. I don't think that's necessarily something I want to just put out there. Like, I know I filmed an entire day where I cried because I had to watch some really horrific stuff, and most likely I will not have included that all in there. I might have fast forwarded through it. We'll see what I decide when I'm actually editing, but now I can post all of this. So thanks for following the whole trial to the end. I can try and answer any questions down below in the comments if you have any. This isn't like my normal content, but this was really fun to do. I really needed an outlet, and you happened to be it, so thanks for letting me rant at you this whole time when I wasn't allowed to talk to anybody. And that is all for now. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!